Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes into new areas. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 list on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast. Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Saturday, episode 37. I will be joined shortly by the man they call Dave and AJ Strangebrew. And since the weather's getting hot out there, we're going to talk top favorite summer wrestling events. We're going to do a little 5-3-1. But before I bring the guys in, I'm going to play a quick social media ad from our podcast home, The Buzz.
Get the Lambo car, house in the hills with the stars. Told you I'd raise the bar, told you that I go far. Oh, baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now.
Now, guys, how are we doing today?
Awesome.
Never been better, baby.
Dude, it's nice and cool out today. Got the sweatshirt on. Ready to rock and roll.
Oh, look at this guy. Number 1 fan, Randy Osgood, slipping in on his DMs right now.
Yeah,
that's
I got to tell you. Hey, guys, Randy asked a good question this week. He wanted us to talk about, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan signing with AEW.
But before we do that, we got to get to our 5-3-1, baby.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, today we're doing a 5-3-1 on favorite summer wrestling events. And Dave, what comes to mind for a summer wrestling event when you think of that specifically?
I mean, the first thing that pops in my head actually is Summerslam. There are a lot of other, great events we're going to talk about. The Great American Bash. There's a couple other events that took place during the summer. I don't want to spoil my list, but yeah. But I mean, the first 2 things that pop in my head, it is SummerSlam, and it's not because, I'm a WWE guy. Just SummerSlam has always been the emphasis on summer. But the Great American Bash, yeah, man. Fucking, that's right there with me, too.
I'd like to point out that yesterday Joe snubbed Randy. Randy waved at him.
I must have been driving on Bethel Road and not see my man, but we will be heading to
We'll get back to him later.
SummerSlam.
That's what.
Yeah.
That's why I drive down Bethel Road once a day.
Now, I'll give you my list first because I think it's a little different. Maybe not what Dave was expecting. I've got SummerSlam 88 on there first. You got Bulldogs versus Joe's on that. Hogan and Savage versus DiBiase and I'm gonna say Andre because I got DiBiase Savage, and that can't be right.
It was Andre.
Okay.
The following year was Zeus, but go ahead.
Yep. And then Warrior versus Honky Tonk Man. Even though it's not a great match, what Warrior pulled off, like we're still talking about now.
Big moment. I love that event. I don't want to cut you up, but that was the very first SummerSlam too. So yeah, that was awesome.
Now, next up on my list is All Out 2019. That featured Pac submitting Omega. You had that first Jericho and Page match for the title, and then Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. That ladder match was insane. That was fourth on my list. Now, moving up to number 3, I got SummerSlam 2016. That was when Brock beat the blood out of Orton. You had Cesaro and Sheamus in their first of their best of 7 series, which led to their tag team. I got Sasha versus Charlotte was on that card, and so wasn't Cena versus Styles. Number 2 on my list, I got SummerSlam 92. It's got an affinity in all our hearts. Bret versus Bulldog, Kamala versus Undertaker, and Legion of Doom versus Money Inc.
Kamala!
And then number 1 on my list was American Rana 2017 Beyond Wrestling. That was at the White Eagle in Worcester. It featured Chuck Taylor versus Swoggle in a TLC match, which was great. Roppongi Vice versus the Hit Squad, which if you heard Dan Moff on our show threaten Dave, it wasn't half as scary as him yelling at Trent across the ring. And then that also featured Santana and Ortiz versus the Lucha Brothers, which was a hell of a match. That was early on when I was just discovering the Lucha Brothers.
I saw Dan Moff this last week at Heatwave for Northeast Wrestling, and
did he threaten you?
You might not believe a lot of people in that ring, but I guarantee you get close to Dan Moff, you're going to believe that motherfucker would kill you.
He threatened me with some bread. You want me to go next?
Absolutely.
Randy, we did catch the replay of Slammiversary. It was a great show. It did not disappoint. Jay White coming out at the end. But let's get Dave's list before we get into Slammiversary.
Yeah. So, okay, first on my list, SummerSlam 92, baby. Come on. I'm fucked, Brett. I'm fucked, Mr. Hitman. I'm fucked. All right. The man fucking had the performance of his lifetime on drugs. I cannot say good things about that. Davey boy, rest in peace. We're proud of you.
He should have done the drugs more often.
I don't know. He might have.
Some might argue he did them too often.
Yeah. Bash 87. That was the first ever War Games. That's when we started War Games. So the first ever Bash. Well, the first Bash of 87. King of the Ring 96, which technically did take place in summer that year. And that, of course, is the famous Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass. So for that historical moment, makes my list. Bash at the Beach 96. Only a few weeks later, we're going to have Hogan turning heel and the formation of the NWO. Come on, that's got to make the list, right? And then I wish I had put an AEW on there just for the significance and spread it out, but I forgot to think about there in the summertime. But I think it's a pretty good one. I'm going to give you a little background on it. Money in the Bank, 2011. Christian wins the world title from Randy Orton by disqualification because that was the stipulation of the match. Del Rio wins Money in the Bank from Raw. Daniel Bryan wins the SmackDown Money in the Bank. And, of course, the big news was CM Punk, on the last night of his contract, at least in storyline, they got a deal done, won the world title from John Cena and walked out in Chicago as world champion with fans screaming his name. This, of course, was the pipe bomb that just happened, and people were just going crazy for Punk around this time.
Now, speaking of getting the deal done, AJ, you got a list for us, right?
I do, and it does not have SummerSlam 91 on it because anyone with a wedding sucks ass. But my first one on my list is the originator, in my opinion, of a lot of these big summer events. It's the Indie Day Star Wars from World Class Championship Wrestling, July 4th, 1983. It is actually the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds. This was when they got together after what had happened in December of the year before, where Fritz had suffered the heart attack and that stuff. And it's just a three-way. It's just a six-man that is out of control, and the whole show is just absolutely huge.
Was that a shoot heart attack?
Oh, absolutely. And then you've got another one, Indie Stars of 1985. It's the last great one from World Class Championship Wrestling. And that is actually Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez, the dynamic duo, versus Kerry and Kevin. And if you want to see a tag team that had a tremendous amount of heat and was just money, it's Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez. And then Gino Hernandez would be dead shortly after this.
They got the head shaved that night, too.
Yeah, they got the head shaved. It's one of those events that you should catch just as a wrestling fan if you really want to see the history of wrestling events. And then one of my favorite SummerSlams of all time is actually SummerSlam 96. Now, the match that sucked on that was Fake Taker versus Fake Taker. That was absolutely horrible. However, there was a few moments that were show stealers. You had Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, which was absolutely incredible. You had Bull Nakano do a sharpshooter submission hold. You don't see that often, where she did the sharpshooter and actually lifted Medusa into an actual submission hold. And then the match of the night that stole it for me was actually, believe it or not, Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS wrestled the Head Shrinkers. And they just beat the living crap out of each other in that match. So there's a fun little SummerSlam match for you and little event. Check out 96.
All praises to Earl and Archleister.
Yeah, 94 was actually a very good SummerSlam. That to me was one of the ones that I think sometimes gets a little forgotten when people talk about it. Actually, sorry, I mixed them up. 94 was the one I was actually just talking about.
Bret and Owen.
Sorry, my bad. I flip-flopped that in 96. My bad. 96 was actually, hold on. Sorry, 97, the one where Stone Cold suffers the fractured neck.
Okay, so that's Stone Cold Owen, and that's Undertaker and Bret for the world title, I believe.
Exactly. Right? So, that's the other one that I meant to get in there. I had a little bit of trouble reading my own handwriting, which happens sometimes.
Mick Foley had a great match with Triple H in the cage. He did the Dude Love splash, but he wasn't really Dude Love yet. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, and it was the first one ever at the Continental Airlines. It was actually their first major event there. So that was kind of a cool little
New Jersey had lifted the taxes actually for that event because they had a new governor, and she actually did like some kind of press conference with the Undertaker.
Yeah, because they hadn't done events in New Jersey for a while because of the tax rate in New Jersey.
Right.
And she lifted the tax rate, and that actually opened up New Jersey to become a hotbed for wrestling activity.
Because Vince McMahon then made us all proud as pro wrestling fans and said, "We're sports entertainment, pal."
And then, guys, 1985, they had the SummerSlam event where everybody bought Working Fans Podcast T-shirts. It was a great event. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's different. But during the summer of that year, they actually did events throughout the summer of the Great American Bash, and it was a tour. But they had several events through that summer where the Rock and Roll Express headlined, and then you got to see a lot of Dusty and Tully. You got to see Flair work many, many matches. And to me, the Great American Bash is just synonymous with summertime.
Got to see a little Willie and Waylon, David Allen Coe, depending on the
time.
Absolutely.
They brought the music in there. Dusty was on stage singing with Willie and the boys.
Oh, yeah. Finger fucking Sally. That was good shit.
Yeah, so it was a good time. But that wraps up my list.
Good tunes. All right. So I don't know why that list felt like it took you. We went to Broadway with that list, by the way. But
I did. But hey, guys, before we go any farther, did you guys see? This is breaking news. There's a lot of rumors out there that Daniel Bryan.
Oh yeah. Randy wants to talk about. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We still.
Now, Daniel Backley's got a couple summer events for us here.
SummerSlam, Summer Struggle, Slammiversary, King of the Ring, and All Out. Can't stay long drinking my ass off right now, but kick ass today, guys. Thank you, Backley. Thank you for throwing that up there.
Jake St. John is also watching.
Oh, yeah, he knows about F and Sally. So we didn't actually pick we got to pick a top 3, though. I mean, SummerSlam 92 is going to make our list, right?
SummerSlam 92 has got to be in there easy.
Yeah, I think we got to throw a Bash in there. I know I picked it, but Bash 87 was the War Games, so I think that's a good one. And
I was going to put that on my list.
I got to tell you, one of the picks that I like on Dave's is actually the Bash at the Beach.
Oh, yeah,
I
right.
think that
NWO.
Hogan turning and what that meant to wrestling overall, even though the card itself wasn't that great.
No.
What it means to wrestling was absolutely fantastic.
So in those 3, who do we eliminate first? Is this favorites? Are we on favorites?
If it's favorites, I'm getting rid of the one where Hogan turned.
Yeah, but if it's biggest, then that one should probably win.
I would say
Let's go with our favorites.
Yeah, let's go with favorites because Biggie, we would have to have numbers to quantify it. And
Yeah. Bash. See you later, Bash. So that brings us down to the Great American Bash and
NWO, not for life.
And you know my money is. You know where my heart is.
I know where your heart is.
Yeah,
War Games.
That's not my heart. Joe might fucking go for that, but I'm not. I'll go down swinging.
Because I've got such love for the War Games, but 92 SummerSlam, that was in the heart of my fandom, and I grew up with that. So I would have to go with what I grew up loving versus.
I just want to bring you something, and this is in fairness.
Yeah.
This is in fairness. 92 SummerSlam, fantastic. Obviously, great match between Bulldog and Brett.
Yes.
However, if you look at what stood the test of time, War Games is still being used every year. Davey's
They can't
dead.
drag out. They can't drag out.
Davey's yeah.
That match
Davey's
is still
dead.
there.
Brett can barely speak after a stroke.
He can speak.
I mean,
you can't get a ton of wrestlers to smoke crack and then perform big the next day like that during the summer.
Unbelievable. Yeah, his summer MVP performance. Davey, we love you. Harry, we're wishing you good luck. Brett, keep on talking, baby. We love you. So much.
AJ
Good
Dillon
word.
gave us his shoulder in his career in that match.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, he also gave us his nasty ball sack. Anyway, moving on. 92-1. All right. So what's going on? What else do we got to talk about, guys?
Well, the big news this week is actually Daniel Bryan.
Slammiversary. Slammiversary. That's what we're going to talk
about. Commercial for the Buzz to play for you here before we get to that.
Let's talk about Slam.
Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you don't know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by your locksmith. On the block throwing lobs to my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot, swish.
Now, fellas, Randy's been reading those dirt sheets. He wants to know, there's speculation abound. When is AEW signing AJ Strangebrew?
Not soon enough, Randy. Not soon enough. If you want to know who the man is that can really turn AEW around, all you got to know is it's 90-something degrees out here. This man's wearing a sweatshirt. That should tell you all you need to know about who the baddest motherfucker on the planet is.
And that man is Nick Gage. He came out this week on Dynamite. He's going to take on Chris Jericho. Guys, we're going to see Nick Gage on TV. Are you ready for that?
Hey, first question, Joe. Did you get that spoiled for you, or did you actually watch that live?
Of course,
I didn't watch it live
for me, and I had to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I figured.
I actually saw it as it was happening, so I think I was the only person who didn't actually get spoiled on that one.
I didn't get spoiled on that one. I actually got spoiled later on the fucking couple things, but not that. Yeah, man, Nick Gage in AEW. I love. I was saying this to AJ the other day. I got to give it to AEW. I don't think any company has done a better job of managing relationships with other promotions, talking about other promotions, incorporating other promotions and other talents in their storyline. It is totally a breath of fresh air, and it's totally different than anything's going on. In fact, I think it was Scott that said something in our group, Joe, one time. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like all these kids that were playing. I told AJ about this, and it had a picture of New Japan, NWA, AEW, and Ring of Honor. And then it was like this other kid was playing, and it just said WWE to its own brand, and a picture of NXT, and a kid punching the kid in the face. And like, that's how I felt this week when I watched Cross get jobbed out by Jeff Hardy in a minute 46. And then over here we have AEW, where we have people from GCW showing up, the NWA, and it's like Impact. And it's just crazy.
They had a New Japan title change hands on their show. And then they're introducing another New Japan talent into that feud. That's insane.
I think it's going to happen again. I actually think the Murder Hawk is going to actually lose the belt next week. So
you think he's going to learn the Hikuleo? Like, Hikuleu's good. He's a beast. He's another one of Haku's sons. But
I think New Japan wants the belt back in Japan, and I think that this is the way to do it. I think that they didn't want to put him over Moxley. So they have Lance Archer dropping the belt to him next week.
I say fuck that. I say Archer will drop it maybe on the upcoming New Japan show. I'm blanking out on the name, but it's going to be this summer. It's going to be in August.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking the Grand Slam show, but I believe that's coming up soon.
Yeah, and it's going to be in the States. So Archer could be there to drop that.
Yeah, so that could be it. I could see happening this week coming up just to get another big pop. By the way, they freaking killed it on ratings again.
Yeah, number one again. Good for them. I will say, too, despite though Vince McMahon trying to kill off NXT, I thought they had a solid show this week. Joe,
they did. I
Joe
thought it was a good all-around show.
Yeah, I'm excited about Joe coming back to the ring. I think the takeover they set up with Joe versus Cross, and now we found out Walter versus Dragunov 2 is happening. Like, what a fucking monster match that is.
That's going to be major.
The only thing that I want to see this week on Raw, and this is the only way you can make up for last week, quite frankly, is you have to have Karrion Kross come out and absolutely fucking destroy Jeff Hardy. You've got a guy who you've built up as a monster. You bring him up as your NXT champion and show him that he can't beat a guy who barely ever wins on Raw. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is a guy who just lost the DUI championship to Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso.
Yeah.
A week or two ago.
Jimmy.
That
Don't put that evil on, Jay.
24/7 title.
Like Roman said, does it really matter that we can't tell the difference?
Main event Jey Uso, baby. Let him shine. You know, I love that. There's a little subtlety. I got to actually say this real quick. Where Roman's talking to him now, and Roman's like, I brought you up, Jay. Made you main event. And then he looks at Jimmy and he goes, I ain't even got to ask about you. You know you lucky to be here. It's like, all right.
Yeah, that was weird that like a week or two after catching that DUI, he gets a title win, and it seems like an odd way to punish him. Unless
getting punished.
unless that comment on live TV was the most he's gonna get. Like that's the penalty he's got.
That's what they're gonna do. It's obvious that's what they're gonna do. They busted his ass and they made it into like that's it. Roman's like, hey, if you don't get what's happening right now, but you know, for the hardcore fans, that's actually our little reward. That's our reward. Little hardcore fan. Hey, in
fairness, he was only drinking and driving. It's fine.
Now, guys, shattered. No,
Randy did bring up a good point tonight. Big
GCW show. Yeah.
GCW Homecoming Night 1. You've got Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage. That is insane to be talking about. I thought it was
woo.
Nick Gage on
Nick
TNT.
Gage is everywhere.
Yeah.
He is, but how do you see him versus Cardona going?
If I had told you 2 years ago that Zack Ryder was going to be wrestling Nick Gage on an independent show tonight, you'd have thought it was fucking crazy.
Zack Ryder will have nuclear heat tonight. That being said, I think Gage is about to go on AEW. I think he's a GCW guy though. So GCW is going to send them there hot and ready to go, I think. And I think
Watch out for the pizza cutter.
Yeah, I do think Jericho is going to go over on Wednesday because Jericho has to keep winning to get to Max.
Yeah, in order to get to Max, he has to win.
So right, there's no point in Gage going over in that, but I do think the Gage will put on a hell of a show and do what he do. So
I do like that they are doing the Pain maker instead of just Chris Jericho. I like that because it changes his style too.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, personally, I think the Pain maker is a little. To me, it's still Jericho. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so it is what it is. It's something different.
Oh no,
it's a nice little slant on the
different eyes.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Now,
Clockwork Orange, brother. Clockwork Orange.
Speaking of different eyes, you've
for
got
the
the
GCW
big
show.
breaking news this week.
Oh.
You've got
Drew Parker won the Big Japan Wrestling Deathmatch Championship, and he's going to be defending it in a champion versus champion match versus Alex Colon tonight at GCW. That's major.
Any relation to Carlito?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, we got big news we got to talk about, and that's
absolutely
Slammiversary. Last week, what an awesome show!
That was last weekend. A lot of big appearances.
Omega and Callahan.
Jay White at home in Impact Wrestling.
Jay White came back, and then also too. By the way, people haven't really said this, Joe. I know you'll agree with me. Don Callis, fucking awesome on commentary. Yeah. He made that show even twice as good. It was amazing. Great shit by John Callis on that show.
By the way, Thunder Rosa, who was on that show, is now officially signed with AEW.
But she was already getting a decent push as it is. So now I kind of wonder, now that she's on the show,
Well, I heard that she signed because there were rumors that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk have also signed, and she wants to be on.
I haven't heard. I don't know. Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. But first off, let's talk about some other stuff, man. Let's talk about this Hangman Page storyline again, huh? This fucking guy.
They're really looking at good, aren't they?
Dude, I'm so excited about
this. They did the live show in Texas following 2 days ago. They did the live show in Dallas, and Hangman came out, and it's reported everywhere that Hangman Page had the biggest reaction of the night.
Actually, there's already comments about Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. I haven't heard many people talk about this, but to me, is Britt Baker becoming like a babyface here?
Dude, she wrestled that match against freaking Nyla Rose with a broken fucking wrist.
And it's like the crowd is reacting. Everything's like DMD. And I mean, no offense, guys, if you don't want her to be a babyface, why are you putting her with Nyla Rose? Like, Nyla's not going to be cheered in that situation. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's not June anymore. We don't automatically cheer just because of Pride Month.
I feel like she's one of only 3 women that's really over there. Like Thunder Rosa is wild. Britt Baker has a wild response.
And by the way, I happen to know for a fact
it's not as the other ladies get responses, but not as big as them. And Britt Baker, she's just ingrained with this audience now.
And one thing too, and I want to talk about something else, but one other thing about that too, I happen to know for a fact that Britt Baker is very prideful. So anyway, now I also want to talk about Chavo Guerrero showing up. That Texas crowd loved it. And although it's funny, I never even thought about Chavo. I thought he's a nice addition to that group. A lot better than Vicky.
He came out with a heel faction and cut a face promo. It was great.
Hey, you know what? They loved him. I mean, but that's the thing. People are walking these lines right now a little bit in AEW.
I think he's better than Vicky Guerrero for that role.
Yeah,
I hope
absolutely.
that eventually they kind of like squeeze her out a little bit of that.
I do like Death Triangle though.
Yeah,
I think Death Triangle is a great match.
They might be hinting at the Lucha Bros possibly joining Andrade though.
Well, they have to go together. Everybody knows that you have to put all the same minority in the same group.
Talk to what's his name there? Yeah, Pat Tanaka back in the day. Archive episodes, folks. He'll let you know how it was done. Anyway. All right. Is there anything else we got to talk about? Are we wrapping up the show? Or
No. There's another big story here. We've got
Money in the Bank was last weekend.
Yes, fans were back.
Fans.
Oh my God, John Cena came back. The crowd erupted.
He's had big responses on TV as well. It kind of hurts the WWE when you realize that they need Cena for that type of reaction. And Roman gets a good reaction, but he's not getting a Cena reaction.
No.
Big E's getting a good reaction, but he's not getting a Cena reaction. Who can generate that Cena reaction when he's gone, and will it happen?
CM Punk could get that reaction if he was in a promotion.
He could.
Yeah, but he's done with wrestling. He said that.
I think he's just coaching hockey now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tell you what,
coach, right?
I think if they seriously got behind Big E and actually like really pushed him, he's a guy I could see.
No, he's continuing on with Apollo Crews, thank God.
Apollo Crews. Yeah. By the way, I didn't get to watch SmackDown last night, but I did see Paul Heyman masterfully doing John Cena's entrance there. So AJ, I don't know if you watched SmackDown, but I didn't get a chance to see it yet. So
yeah, John Cena has done exactly what I expected him to do. I enjoyed SmackDown a little less this week.
Did you watch it? Or?
I did.
Okay.
I fast forwarded a lot, but I did watch it.
Now, what channel was it on? Because I tried watching it, and it looked like a baseball game was on Fox last night. I couldn't find it.
Mine recorded, but it recorded late. So I don't know if they.
Okay.
So I don't know if it replayed on a separate station or what it did.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch it live. I watched it on recording, so I have no idea where it actually recorded.
It's not recorded right now because I figured UTV and I went to go watch it. That's part of the problem. I was like,
oh, it's
fucking yeah.
Yeah, I had it recorded last night.
Yeah, I did. This is another one coming up. So don't worry, people. Dave will get to watch his SmackDown tomorrow, it looks like. But yeah, I tuned into that. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
I could have deleted it after.
Well,
I gave this guy, he got several. All I want is YouTube TV, motherfucker.
Well, I was
I know you enjoy
wait a
Disney
minute.
Plus.
Yeah, you're not telling everybody YouTube TV is the most expensive one of all of them.
I got a good minor matching up by the time you add them all up. There's
you made it sound 6-1 YouTube TV is $70 a month.
I wanted to see the footage from the Rolling Loud Festival, but unfortunately,
AJ
when
would have gave a fuck about that.
No,
AJ he would have fast forwarded through all that shit. That's how he was.
Get a little Wale live on SmackDown.
Yeah, a little Wale.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite. Isn't that Disney movie?
That
Wall-E?
Pixar, yeah, Disney Plus. Yeah. You know you've been enjoying that shit. Good to see him, boy.
yeah. I watched one episode of Loki. That was horrible.
That was pretty good. Fuck you.
Wow.
I want the Masters of the Universe remake, the reboot series. I loved it, and now I'm reading on Google that everybody hates it.
Dude.
Well, what people don't realize is my problem is I watch something like Loki, and I'm watching it like actual Norse mythology and going, this isn't the fucking myth. What the hell's going on here?
Episode 3, baby. You gotta wait. It turns into a love story a little bit. You love that part. Oh yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
Speaking of love stories, we might be able to see a match between Daniel Bryan and CM Punk.
Oh yeah. If you go back in the day and you watch some of the matches they had on Ring of Honor, man, that was fucking dynamite, man.
Yeah, Ring of Honor has that series now where you can go back and actually watch everything. It's nice.
Yeah, they're doing good. Yeah, Ring of Honor's got fans back. Impact.
Dude, there was something Randy wanted to talk about, and I cannot remember for the life of me what he wanted to talk about.
I think we've delayed it long enough. I've run out of things to stall with.
All right, everybody. Thank you for.
There's reports that AEW has signed both Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, or is close to signing. How do you guys feel about this?
Well,
I would have rather been surprised. If it's true, it's kind of a shitty spoiler to break on the world.
I mean, it's all how you debut them too, right? So, I mean, it can still be a surprise at some point. I guess
there's only one way to debut Punk right now.
Chicago, baby.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I know. But
if he comes out in front of that Chicago crowd, you're not going to see a pop like that ever, I don't think.
I did say to guys, I think I was telling AJ this too. I told Scott, but like, you know, I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but like when Undertaker still had some steam, but he started doing the one match a year thing. Like he came back, people reacting crazy, and then Triple H shows up unannounced too, and they have like a face off, and nobody says a word. You know, and then that was like the first of the WrestleMania sign. It wasn't like overdone at this point yet. And people were going nuts for that shit. Like if you could do almost something similar, that would be a nice way to do it too. Like if, you know, Bryan showed up, people were going crazy, and then Punk showed up and they had a face off. You know, people would just fucking be talking. So there's a couple ways to do this. I do think you're right. I think Punk
it's kind of like, do you want that double pop or do you
I like Punk in Chicago.
Want like the two separate pops?
I like Punk in Chicago. I like Daniel Bryan in the New York show.
I like them separate. Draw the two different houses. Make If you want to make money in wrestling, you draw two different houses. You don't draw one house with two superstars.
Yeah, get that New York market talking.
And then
too.
you get the third house when you have the two of them face to face.
Right. Yeah. Where are you going to go with this? That'll be interesting. And then, like, also the big, I think Randy asked us, like, Randy wants to know if this is going to be a game changer, like the NWO. And to a certain level, sure. We don't have anybody like that in this industry right now,
So-
other than maybe like a Cena. But you know what I mean?
So
Like,
here's my thought. You have Hangman Page go over Omega. You
Yeah.
have Omega come back and screw Hangman Page. Omega comes out and says, "Hey, I'm the best in the world. I've now taken care of Page. There's nothing else for me out there." At that point in the New York show, you have a chance to have Daniel Bryan come out and go, "Oh, you're the best in the world," because his gimmick has been that he's the best wrestler in the world.
CM
You're
Punk
the
too.
best wrestler in the world? No, I'm the best wrestler in the world. Those two fight. And then in Chicago, here comes the other best wrestler in the world, CM Punk.
Well, Chicago's coming first, I believe.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's hard to keep track.
See, with Chicago, you do Colt Cabana versus CM Punk, $500,000 in a poll.
I thought you were going to say staff physician on a poll.
I do think, though, to Randy's question, I do think this will be a difference maker. I think you're going to see some ratings bumps from this, and it'll be interesting to see how far. Man, that's hard to really tell. But, I mean, I don't think it's too crazy to think they could be at a 1.5 or at least sniffing that area by the time this is done. They're going to definitely do big house numbers.
It could absolutely be a game changer. Wrestling, which is on tonight with Matt Cardona versus Nick
Fight
Gage.
TV.
Fight TV, guys. Don't miss it.
See, I'm gonna say there's a good chance they got Brian. That in itself is a good signing. It will be a game changer if they get Punk. And I'm only saying if because there was a couple of years ago when he was at StarCast, everybody assumed he was signing, and
Right.
he very comfortably said no. And he even had a stage show where he basically talked about his life outside of wrestling and being comfortable to get past it. So if they get him, yeah, they've changed the game. But if not, I'm going to say no. Brian is a good signing, but not game changing in himself.
No, I think together they could be game changing. I think together.
I mean, would Daniel Bryan be good? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well,
However,
I mean,
he's not the game changer that CM Punk is.
no, but
What do they even do with him? Because I can't imagine he'd want to keep that WWE gimmick. But will the crowd keep doing it for him?
No, I think he would go
They
more
might.
towards the. I think he'd go back more towards the American Dragon. First of all, he can go back to being Bryan Danielson instead of actually being Daniel Bryan.
I hope we get the vegan Daniel Bryan back.
Ooh,
Get a
He
wood
comes out, telling everybody.
AEW belt.
Yeah.
it's weird that was vegan because that gimmick really liked to suck on the meat.
Fickle. That was one of those things. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think they're both great signings, though, if they got them. And we'll see. All signs. definitely
Who's
seem
the
to indicate-
bigger signing though? It is CM Punk, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because people are still clamoring. I mean, it's been what? How many years now?
Yeah. I mean,
6, 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About
And people are still dying to see this guy back in the ring.
right. After he got basically embarrassed in an MMA fight, which I know isn't the same thing, but you think fans would have been like, shit on him. But they don't. They don't. They
I
would shit on
think
other
most
people.
wrestling fans realize that for someone who has no training whatsoever to all of a sudden go in and just train to do
Right.
MMA, that the odds of him not getting his ass whooped were not in his favor.
Right. And being on a stage like the UFC. Even though UFC tried to do some friendly matchmaking, it was still not going to happen.
Yeah, little friendly matchmaking.
Well,
I mean,
the second fight.
I would argue in ring, Brian's probably going to be the bigger return, like the more interesting.
Well, it's
Just
just, I mean,
what he's able to do.
we don't know what Punk can do. That's what's going to be interesting. Punk hasn't probably
As
been
he
working
put
in
the
the ring.
size back on, he had gotten small.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means even if Punk does all right, going to be maybe not as good as Brian, and that's tough. Like, I hope he comes back in the ring good.
That being said,
these
are two of the greatest performers of all time, and to think that he's lost that much
You know, it's funny. Like, you could put Hangman Page over, and you could have him getting beat down at the end of the show, and then Punk makes the save, and then they could be leading towards a Punk fucking Omega match. It looks like, and then in New York, and then Bryan shows up, and that would be a three-way match. I know, I want the one-on-one too, but that would be a three-way match that would actually be exciting. And with Punk coming back in his first match too, having a couple dance partners. I mean, Jesus. I mean, it's kind of hard to be upset about Omega versus Punk versus Danielson. I mean, just saying that.
And I think that it has to go more towards them versus Omega, just due to the fact that I'm not sure you can make either one of them a heel coming in.
No, and you got a huge baby face in Page right now. So I think there's definitely, you could always, MJF could go over in this feud with Jericho, and then you could do MJF and Hangman Page for the title. And while you have that triple threat thing, that could be like a pay-per-view, whatever the November pay-per-view.
It is only a matter of time until MJF at some point has that title around his waist. I mean, he is the best heel in there.
Revolution, right. I mean, imagine Revolution. You have a three-way between Punk, Bryan, and Omega as the co-main event, and the main event's going to be Hangman and MJF. First off, it's a great way for Hangman to be the main event on that pay-per-view with those other guys underneath. I don't know.
Plus, in order for the Pinnacle to actually reach the success that they want them to reach, they have to at some point have that great heel champion like Flair was for the Horsemen that everybody wants to chase.
Sure, and it'd be nice to see the not the Revival,
Pinnacle.
The Pinnacle. Well, what is that? Daxon.
No,
what are they now?
Yeah, it's FTR.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'd love to see them back with the tag belts too. But
you can put the belts back on them. You can freaking have Shawn Spears could eventually win something.
Yeah, he could.
Although he couldn't beat Jericho being allowed to use the steel chair.
Right. So I thought he was going to have to go through all the members of the Pinnacle, but thank
God it's something different.
Yeah, they actually did something different. So I'm not
eventually they're going to want to do something with Wardlow too. Wardlow is the Pinnacle's Lex Luger.
Yeah.
Except for he can wrestle more.
Yeah. He's I mean, there's a lot of with the exception of Spears, sorry guy. There's a lot of people in that group that are very.
The sad part is it's not like we don't like Shawn Spears. The guy,
he's not a great wrestler. He's great in the ring. He just doesn't have that it factor that the rest of the guys do.
He doesn't have the it factor his wife has.
No, he doesn't.
Now, guys, do you guys have anything more to talk about this week? Because I was thinking next week we can come back with top 5 dream opponents for Punk in AEW.
Absolutely.
Supposedly, he's going to be coming in.
Absolutely, we can do that.
All right, guys, we'll get your list ready, and I will see you next Saturday.
Ba-ba-da-ba.